My wife drove drunk, hit, and killed someone, then fled home, crying and begging me to save her. I took her place and went to prison for 10 years. She was deeply moved and said she would wait for me forever. After my release, she had 2 children and impatiently said to me, "I already promised to support you for life. What more do you want?" My parents-in-law mocked me. "Jingyun has been a widow for 10 years because of you. What's wrong with her having 2 children? They still have to call you dad, don't they?" Even my parents said, "You have no job, no education, you've been in prison and disconnected from society. Jingyun hasn't abandoned you. What are you complaining about?" Lin Jingyun smiled. "Did you hear that? Just live with me properly. These 2 children will take care of you when you're old." Looking at this family, my heart turned to ashes. No need. Let's get divorced. Su Jiao, have you gone mad? My father's roar exploded in the living room as a teacup with scalding tea flew toward my face. I instinctively tilted my head, but the ceramic cup rim still cut open a gash at my temple. Warm liquid slid down my cheek, impossible to tell whether it was tea or blood. I raised my hand to wipe it away, my fingertips stained with glaring red. 10 years in prison had dulled my perception of pain, but at this moment, this dull ache felt extraordinarily clear. "Dad," I said hoarsely, unable to believe that the red-eyed old man before me was the quiet, reserved father in my memory. My mother had already rushed over, her bony fingers digging into my upper arm like iron pliers. "Do you know what you're saying?" Her voice was piercingly shrill. "How easy do you think these 10 years have been for Jingyun? She had to take care of us 2 old wretches while holding this family together. And you? You were in prison eating government food, and now you want to destroy this family." She grabbed the bamboo broom from the corner and swung it against my back with a whooshing sound. A muffled thwack sound, followed by a sharp pain shooting through my spine. I stood still, enduring as the second and third blows followed in quick succession. The sound of bamboo breaking was particularly crisp, just like the sound of Lin Jingyun crashing through the guardrail on that rainy night 10 years ago. "Mom, stop hitting him." Lin Jingyun's voice came from the entrance, with just the right amount of choked emotion. I looked up at her. Today she wore rose bean paste-colored lipstick, exactly the same as during her last prison visit 10 years ago. Back then, separated by thick glass, she had cried and said, "Jiao, I'll wait for you forever." Now she walked slowly toward me in those expensive high heels, reaching out to wipe the blood from my temple. I turned my head away, and her fingers froze in midair. "Jiao." Her eyes reddened. "Can we stop this? I know you're angry, but these 10 why? Years haven't been easy for me either." She tugged at my sleeve and gently shook it, a gesture that had softened my heart countless times before. My gaze moved past her, landing on the family portrait hanging on the living room wall. In the photo, Lin Jingyun was holding a boy of about 7 or 8 years old, with a man in a suit standing beside her, cradling a little girl in his arms. Such a heartwarming family of 4. If only that man were me. Not easy. I heard my own voice as if it were coming from far away. "Do you mean it wasn't easy visiting me in prison with someone else's child? Or wasn't easy falsifying the visitation records?" Lin Jingyun's expression instantly froze. My mother-in-law slammed the fruit plate onto the coffee table with a bang. "Su Jiao, don't be so ungrateful," she scolded in a shrill voice. "You were the one who willingly took the blame for Jingyun back then, so stop acting like a victim now." It was voluntary on my part. Back then, Lin Jingyun had burst through the door reeking of alcohol, the hem of her white dress stained with dark red blood and glass fragments. "Jiao, I hit someone." She knelt on the ground, holding my leg and trembling. "That person seems to be dead. I'll go to prison, my life will be ruined." I remember how I gently stroked her back, how I went to the accident scene at night to forge evidence, how I admitted to drunk driving and fleeing the scene in court. When the judge announced the verdict, Lin Jingyun cried almost to the point of fainting in the gallery, while I turned back to smile at her, mouthing, "Wait for me. Brother Jiao." This long-forgotten form of address made my whole body shudder. Lin Jingyun suddenly grabbed my hand, her palm ice cold. "Do you remember when I was 14? Her voice was as gentle as if telling a fairy tale. "That winter was especially cold. I hid under the eaves of your house reading books, my hands covered with chilblains." Of course I remembered. That year, the heavy snow blocked the mountains, and Lin Jingyun's family was so poor they couldn't even afford coal for fire. Every day after school, she would squat under the eaves of my house, doing homework by the light, her frozen red fingertips often cracking and bleeding. I was the one who stole the tuition money my father hid in the clay jar to buy her a cotton coat, and I was the one who saved my breakfast money to buy her reference books. Later, you didn't get into university, while I was accepted to medical school. "I did get in," I interrupted her. "I tore up my own acceptance letter because I calculated that tuition for both of us would cost $28,000, but my family only had $12,000 in savings. The living room suddenly fell silent. My parents stared wide-eyed, clearly hearing about this for the first time. Lin Jingyun's face turned pale. She hadn't expected me to expose this secret in front of everyone. My father-in-law abruptly stood up, pointing at my nose and shouting, "Nonsense. Jingyun clearly got in on her own merit with a full scholarship. Even scholarship students had to pay a 5,000 yuan deposit," I said calmly. That August, I worked at a construction site for 40 days, wearing a layer of skin off my shoulders to scrape together that money. Memories came flooding back like a dam breaking open. I remember when Lin Jingyun was sexually harassed by the head of surgery in her sophomore year. I was the one who swung a fire extinguisher and cracked that beast's head. No company was willing to hire a high school graduate with a violent criminal record, so I could only find odd jobs. And Lin Jingyun, she smoothly entered a top-tier hospital after graduation, looking radiant in her white coat. "So what?" Lin Jingyun suddenly sneered. "Are you trying to settle accounts with me now?" Looking at her meticulously done eyebrows and eyes, I suddenly felt completely unfamiliar with her. Was this still the same girl who had shivered in the snowy night, begging me to teach her math problems? "Jingyun," my mother-in-law interjected with a sarcastic tone. "If you ask me, Jiayu has developed issues from his time in prison. You've been more than kind to him, living like a widow for 10 years. What's wrong with having 2 children? Don't they still have to call him dad?" Surprisingly, my parents were nodding in agreement. Father mumbled, "Jiayu, you have no job, no education now. It's already good enough that Jingyun doesn't look down on you." Mother wiped her tears and agreed. "That's right. When you were in prison, you didn't care about us at all. It was Jingyun who took care of us. Otherwise, we would have starved to death long ago." Yes, it really wasn't easy. I looked down at the calluses on my palms left from labor reform. So difficult that she only came to visit me in prison 3 times. Lin Jingyun's expression suddenly changed. "Su Jiayu." She finally tore off her disguise, her sharp nails almost poking my face. "Don't be ungrateful. If I hadn't sent money to your parents every month, they would have starved to death long ago. You're eating my food and living in my house now. What right do you have to ask me for a divorce?" I slowly looked around this luxuriously decorated living room, my gaze moving from the leather sofa to the crystal chandelier, finally resting on that glaring family portrait. "You're right," I nodded. "I have no right to ask for a divorce." Just as Lin Jingyu was about to show a victorious smile, I continued speaking. "So I might as well turn myself in. The original crime was fake, but my identity fraud is real. Anyway, in prison they provide food and shelter, which is better than being a living cuckold here. You." She suddenly stepped back, her face as white as paper. My parents-in-law jumped up and started cursing loudly, while my parents anxiously read to cover my mouth. In the midst of the chaos, I turned and walked toward the door. After 10 years, I finally saw through this lie built upon my sacrifice. The moment my hand touched the doorknob, Lin Jingyu suddenly rushed over and hugged my legs. "Brother Jiayu." She cried until her makeup was ruined. "I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Give me one more chance, please. Don't go." I looked down at her, suddenly remembering that snowy night 20 years ago. 14-year-old Lin Jingyu had hugged my legs just like this, saying, "Brother Jiayu, could you teach me how to solve this problem?" How could I have known then that this problem would take my entire life to solve? All right. I gave the same answer as I did 20 years ago. "Brother Jiayu, I knew you wouldn't leave me." Lin Jingyun sobbed on my shoulder. I gently patted her back, but my gaze fell on the men's leather shoes at the entrance, clearly 2 sizes larger than mine. Only then did my mother-in-law smile. "That's more like it. Jingyun has been crying every day, just waiting for you to come back." She arranged a fruit platter for everyone, with cherries forming a crooked heart shape that looked more like a mocking grimace. The matter seemed to be resolved perfectly. My parents left with satisfied smiles, not wanting to overstay. At night, I lay on the marriage bed in the master bedroom, listening to the sounds of 2 children laughing from the adjacent nursery. "Daddy will take us to Disneyland tomorrow." The little girl's excited laughter made me grip the corner of the blanket tightly. At 3 in the morning, I took out my phone and sent a text to Jose. "Find a lawyer, quickly." Jose is a friend who started a business with me. When his startup failed, he went home to inherit the family fortune, but he still remembered me as his brother, specifically coming to pick me up from prison. If it weren't for him, I might have had to walk back from prison. The next day, Lin Jingyun prepared breakfast meticulously. "Honey, try my newly learned soft-boiled egg." She pushed the plate in front of me, the egg yolk trembling as if it might break at any moment. But I only noticed the diamond ring on her ring finger, not the one I had bought for her before. "Jingyun." I suddenly grabbed her wrist, the witness to the car accident that year. The spatula in her hand fell to the floor with a clang, her face turning whiter than the apron she wore. What are you talking about?" She forced a smile as she bent down to pick it up, fine beads of sweat forming on the back of her neck. There was no witness. I slowly stirred my coffee, watching the sugar cube dissolve at the bottom of the cup. Actually, I had no idea whether there was a witness or not, but her reaction had already revealed everything. Just then the doorbell rang, and Lin Jingyun rushed to open it, as if grabbing a lifeline on. I'll to find Jose standing at the door with 2 bottles of Maodai. Hello, sister-in-law. Jose smiled so widely his eyes nearly disappeared, while secretly winking at me with his left eye. Behind him stood a man wearing a gray suit. Lin Jingyun exclaimed with surprise. Oh my, if it isn't Chairman Zhou. She wiped her hands on her apron before reaching to shake Jose's hand, completely failing to notice the lawyer examining the family portrait on the living room wall. And who is this? Lin Jingyun stared at the lawyer's briefcase, her fingernails digging into her palm. Jose threw his arm around my shoulder. Of course we need to celebrate my brother's release from prison. This is Lawyer Zhang, who specializes in. He deliberately dragged out his words, divorce cases. The entire room fell silent instantly. A sudden wailing cry came from the children's room, followed by the muffled thud of something heavy falling. When we rushed in, we found the 5-year-old boy riding on his sister, holding up a photo frame. It was a picture of me and Lin Jingyun before I went to prison, now with glass shattered everywhere. Bad dad, the boy spat at me. Mom says you're a murderer. Lin Jingyun screamed and rushed over to cover the child's mouth. Jose was shaking all over trying to hold back his laughter, while Lawyer Zhang had already silently turned on his voice recorder. Most outrageous was my mother-in-law, who actually yelled at the lawyer while holding a kitchen knife. What are you looking at? Domestic violence isn't against the law. I didn't want to watch this farce anymore, so I followed the 2 men out the door. That afternoon, I saw the old car accident files in Jose's car. In the surveillance screenshot, there was a man sitting in the passenger seat of Lin Jingyun's red Volkswagen Beetle, exactly the guy wearing a suit in the current family photo. And at the moment the victim was hit and sent flying, that man was leaning over to kiss Lin Jingyun's ear. So they had been in cahoots that early on. I closed my eyes briefly. I understand now. After returning home, Lin Jingyun tried to probe me about the divorce matter. I told her I had changed my mind and sent them away, which finally made Lin Jingyun reveal a relieved smile. During the night, Lin Jingyun tiptoed to open the bedroom door, but I, being a light sleeper, noticed it. After hearing the security door click shut, I immediately rolled out of bed, opened her computer, and found her messaging app still logged in. Babe, are the wedding invitations printed yet? The most recent message popped up. My mom insists on inviting all her square dancing friends. My fingers trembled as I held the mouse, scanning through their chat history, and only then did I realize that Lin Jingyun was planning to give Lu Huaishua a grand wedding. Suddenly, there was a rustling sound from the closet. My 5-year-old kid crawled out hugging an Ultraman toy, looking at me with drowsy eyes. Bad person stealing mommy's things. I crouched down to his eye level and found a tiny camera in his pajama pocket, the lens still blinking red. Your Uncle Lu gave you this. I waved the delicate little device. The child suddenly broke into a grin, revealing tiger teeth identical to his mother's. You're the bad uncle. He's my daddy. Daddy said if I catch you doing bad things, he'll take me to Disneyland. At that moment, the master bedroom door was violently kicked open. My mother-in-law rushed in wielding a rolling pin. Catch the thief. The ex-con is stealing things. Behind her followed my father-in-law in his silk pajamas, frantically taking photos of me with his phone. Evidence. This is all evidence of the family thief. I calmly put the spare phone back in the drawer and pulled out a folder I had prepared earlier from under the pillow. Dad, Mom, I called affectionately, handing them copies of hotel price quotes. Jingyun wanted to surprise you both and asked me to help keep it secret. Mother-in-law's rolling pin clattered to the floor, her hands trembling. She flipped to the last page of the quote, where payer, Lin Jingyun, was clearly written. Father-in-law suddenly let out a rooster-like screech. 200,000. How many cartons of Huazi cigarettes could that buy? Suddenly, the sound of a key turning came from the security door. Lin Jingyun pushed the door open, her high heels making crisp sounds on the floor. Her face still carried a lingering blush, but she froze instantly upon seeing the scene in the living room. Jingyun, explain yourself. Mother-in-law waved the quote sheet in front of her face, spittle flying. 200,000 for a wedding banquet. Where did you get that money? Lin Jingyun's expression changed, and she instinctively glanced at me. I immediately put on an innocent face and pretended to show concern as I stepped forward. Honey, Mom and Dad know everything now. You don't need to hide it anymore. Shut up. She shoved me away forcefully, but when turning to her parents, she put on an aggrieved expression. Mom, Dad, listen to my explanation. This money was from Huaishua. He said he wanted to give you a surprise. Bullshit. Father-in-law was so angry his beard was trembling. Lu Huaishua, that penniless wretch. Last time he even had to pay the bride price in installments. Lin Jingyun's lie was exposed, her face turning from pale to flushed. She suddenly turned and pointed at me, screaming, "Was it you who sowed discord? Su Jiao, you ex-convict." I pretended to be hurt and took 2 steps back. "Honey, how can you say that? I was just trying to help you." Mother-in-law suddenly grabbed Lin Jingyun's hair. "You wretched girl. Are you involved with that Lu fellow again? What kind of love potion did he give you?" The scene immediately descended into chaos. Lin Jingcloud's hair extension was pulled off. Her father's slipper flew onto the coffee table, and the 5-year-old troublemaker stood nearby recording with a phone while shouting, "TikTok trending, here I come." I quietly retreated to a corner and sent Jose a message. "How are the preparations coming along?" He replied instantly, "Don't worry, the big screen at the wedding venue is all set up. Just waiting for the show to begin." The fight between Lin Jingcloud and her parents concluded perfectly with her promising to give them extra money for filial support each month. She glanced at me while catching her breath, with no intention of explaining anything. 3 days later, Lin Jingcloud and Lu Haoshua's wedding proceeded as scheduled. Wearing a suit borrowed from Jose, I blended in with the guests as I entered the hotel. Under the crystal chandeliers, Lin Jingcloud looked dazzlingly beautiful in her white gown, with Lu Haoshua standing beside her in a sharp suit. They looked like a perfect match. "Hey, isn't that the murderer?" A sharp childish voice suddenly rang out. Looking down, I saw Lin Jingyun's daughter. She was wearing a pink puffy dress and looking at me with contempt. "Mom says you're a bad person, making us the laughingstock of our classmates." Her brother also ran over and spat at me. "Get out. You're not welcome here." The surrounding guests began to whisper, some pointing at me. Lu Huaishua walked over with feigned sincerity. "The children don't know any better, don't mind them." But the smugness in his eyes was impossible to hide. I stood on the red carpet at the wedding venue, with the whispers of guests surrounding me like venomous snakes. "That's the ex-convict, isn't it? I heard he spent 10 years in prison. TSK, now he's come to disrupt his ex-wife's wedding. How shameless." Just then, Lin Jingyun walked quickly over, holding up the hem of her wedding dress. She crouched down to hug the 2 children, then turned to me with an expression on the verge of tears. "Jiao, I know you're upset, but the children are still young, they don't understand." She wiped away tears that didn't exist. "I arranged this wedding just to give the children a complete family." I coldly watched her performance as she continued. "Don't worry, the person I'm marrying is still you. This is just a formality, it won't affect our marriage." As she spoke, she tried to take my arm. I smiled and pulled out a remote control from my pocket. "It's fine. I've prepared a gift for everyone." The next second, the large screen at the wedding venue suddenly lit up. The surveillance footage of Lin Jingyun's drunk driving accident, her intimate chat records with Lu Huaishua, and even recordings of her teaching the children to curse at me, all played clearly. The venue erupted in commotion. Lin Jingyun's face turned pale, her legs trembling beneath her wedding dress. Turn it off. Turn it off now." Lu Huaishua rushed up to grab the remote. I ran onto the stage and took the host's microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to tell you all the truth. The real perpetrator of that car accident 10 years ago was Lin Jingyun." Lin Jingyun shook her head frantically. "You're talking nonsense. It was clearly you." I pressed the remote control, playing the recording of her admitting she made me take the blame. The guests erupted in chaos. My mother-in-law suddenly rushed up to grab my phone. "You ungrateful wretch. Jingyun has been supporting your parents for 10 years. She slipped and fell face-first into the 5-tier wedding cake. "No, this isn't true." Lin Jingyun screamed hysterically, her makeup completely ruined. "Su Jiao, you maniac. I'm going to sue you for defamation." I sneered, pulling out a stack of documents from my briefcase. "These are witness statements from back then. By the way, the so-called support payments you've been making to my parents every month were actually deducted from my dividends, weren't they?" The scene was complete chaos. The 2 children were so frightened they burst into loud crying, while guests were frantically taking videos with their phones. My brother, who had long benefited from her generosity, saw this scene and became furious, rushing forward to punch me in the face. "Su Jiao, you beast." My brother Su Jiaming's eyes were red as he lunged at me like a wild animal. "Did you have to make a scene at Sister Jingyun's wedding? You've completely disgraced our family." I staggered back 2 steps, tasting blood in my mouth. Before I could steady myself, he kicked me in the stomach, causing me to double over in pain as my ears rang. "Look what you've done to this beautiful wedding," Su Jiaming yelled, grabbing me by the collar. "Wasn't 10 years in prison enough? You had to come out and ruin people's lives." I painfully raised my head to see Lin Jingyun standing at a distance, watching coldly, even with a slight sneer at the corner of her mouth. My father-in-law and mother-in-law were pointing and commenting. "Serves him right. This kind of person deserves to be beaten to death." Even my parents stood in the crowd, looking at me with disgust. "Jiaming." I tried to speak, but was slapped hard across the face. "Explain my ass." His spittle sprayed onto my face. Has it been easy for Sister Jingyun all these years? She had to take care of our parents and raise 2 children. And you? Eating free meals in prison, then coming out to ruin her happiness. I wiped the blood from the corner of my mouth, suddenly smiling. Happiness? Her happiness with Lu Huaisua. You dare to talk back. Su Jiaming raised his fist to strike again. At this critical moment, a cold voice suddenly rang out. I'd like to see who dares to touch him. The crowd parted automatically as Jose walked in with more than a dozen bodyguards. Today he wore an impeccable suit, exuding the aura of someone in power, completely different from his usual casual demeanor. Su Jiaming froze. Who are you? Jose didn't even glance at him, walked straight to my side, and took out a handkerchief to hand to me. Are you all right? I shook my head and took the handkerchief to wipe the blood from the corner of my mouth. At this moment, Lin Jingyun suddenly rushed over, pointing at Jose and screaming. Well, Su Jiao. So you've been colluding with the CEO of Zhou Corporation to ruin my reputation. This is malicious business competition. I'm going to sue you both. Lin Jingyun's words caused an uproar throughout the venue. She suddenly straightened her back, a glint of shrewd calculation flashing in her eyes. What you all may not know is that Zhou Corporation has recently been bidding for the East City Medical Park project, and our Lin Pharmaceuticals is their biggest competitor. Hearing this, Jose gave a cold laugh. Miss Lin, your skill at changing the subject is truly first class. Changing the subject? Lin Jingyun suddenly pulled out a document from her handbag. This is a recording of Zhou Corporation's people approaching my company's technical director last month. Jose, do you dare say you weren't trying to steal our new drug formula? I looked at Jose in shock. His expression remained calm, but his eyes noticeably flickered for a moment. Jiayu, Lin Jingyun turned to me. Her voice suddenly choked. You think Jose is really standing up for you? He's just using you to attack our Lin family. You fool, you're being used as a pawn and don't even know it. Jose suddenly stepped forward, staring at Lin Jingyun with resentful eyes. Lin Jingyun, do you remember the fire at the medical school laboratory last year? At that time, you deliberately set fire to destroy our research results, burning down the entire laboratory. I turned abruptly to look at Jose. He had never mentioned this to me before. That fire, Jose's voice was deep and suppressed, killed my sister. She was in the adjacent laboratory working on her graduation project at the time. The entire venue instantly became so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Lin Jingyun's face turned deathly pale, her lips trembling but unable to speak. I've been collecting evidence. Jose pulled out a USB drive from his inner suit pocket. This contains records of your purchase of flammable reagents, as well as surveillance footage of you before the incident. Lin Jingyun stumbled back 2 steps, twisted her ankle in her high heels and fell to the ground. No. Impossible. Those surveillance videos were already deleted through your connections? Jose sneered. Unfortunately, you forgot that the medical school surveillance system has automatic cloud backups. Only then did I understand why Jose had been so relentlessly helping me. It turned out we shared a common enemy. Lin Jingyun suddenly burst into hysterical laughter. Huh? So what? Ms. Lin Jingyun, you are suspected of deliberate arson resulting in death. Please come with us. A steady male voice came from the doorway as a uniformed police officer strode in. Lin Jingyun completely broke down. She suddenly scrambled up from the floor, grabbed a fruit knife from the table, and held it against her own throat. Don't come any closer. If you come any closer, I'll kill myself right in front of you. The guests screamed and scattered in all directions. Jingyun, don't do anything foolish. Her mother-in-law wailed, beating her chest in distress. If you die, what will happen to your 2 children? These words seemed to trigger something, and Lin Jingyun's hand suddenly trembled. I seized the opportunity to dash forward and snatch the knife from her hand. Wanna die? I leaned close to her ear and said in a voice only the 2 of us could hear. It won't be that easy. I want you to live and watch as the lies you've carefully woven break apart one by one. To see your most cherished reputation, status, and wealth gradually turn to nothing. Lin Jingyun trembled all over, the fear in her eyes about to overflow. Su Jiao. You've changed. Yes. I released her, watching as she was led away by the police. Thanks to you. Jose walked over and patted my shoulder, his eyes flickering with complex emotions. Sorry I never told you the truth. I originally just wanted to use you to get close to Lin Jingyun, but later. I understand. I interrupted him. Thank you anyway. After the police car drove away, only a mess and a few elders, pretending to be unconscious, remained at the scene. I crouched down and said to my father-in-law, who was still unconscious, Dad, stop pretending. The police need to take your statement. My father-in-law suddenly sat up, his face ashen. Su Jiao, you ungrateful thing. Jingyun was so good to you. How could you? Good to me. I laughed coldly, taking out my phone and playing a recording. from which my father-in-law's voice clearly came through. That fool is so easy to deceive. Just a few words and he agreed to take the blame for Jingyun. After he spends 10 years in prison, Jingyun will already be married to Huaisuo with children. What waves could he possibly make then? My father-in-law's face instantly turned pale, his lips trembling, unable to speak. Looking at this once arrogant old man, my heart felt ice cold. Rest assured, I will submit this recording as evidence to the police. Covering up a crime also warrants jail time. After saying this, I turned and walked toward the door. Behind me came my mother-in-law's hysterical crying and the pretentious, consoling voices of my parents. On the third day after Lin Jingyun was taken away by the police for investigation, a middle-aged man wearing gold-rimmed glasses appeared at the door of my temporary residence. Mr. Su, I am Li Ming, the former financial director of Lin Group. He pushed up his glasses and handed me a thick envelope. Here are the real financial books of Lin Pharmaceuticals for the past 5 years, including evidence of their profit shifting through overseas shell companies and fake invoicing. I opened the file, filled with dense data that made one's eyes blur. Why are you helping me? Li Ming gave a bitter smile. 3 years ago, when I discovered issues with the accounts and raised questions, the next day, someone broke 2 of my ribs. He unbuttoned his shirt, revealing a hideous scar on his chest. This was Lin Jingyun's parting gift to me. Just then, my phone suddenly rang. It was a message from Jose. Quick, look at the financial news. I turned on the television, only to see Lu Huaisha being interviewed. As a former senior executive of Lin Pharmaceutical, I must stand up and reveal the truth. In the footage, he was dressed in a suit and tie, righteously denouncing Lin Jingyun's various illegal activities, as if they had never been in love. This bastard, Li Ming said through gritted teeth. He was clearly involved in half of the illegal operations. The next day, when I was at the police station cooperating with the investigation, Lin Jingyun was brought in. In just a few days, she had become much more haggard, but the hatred in her eyes had grown even more intense. Su Jiao. As soon as she saw me, she screamed, "It's all because of you. You and Jose set me up." She struggled frantically. The police could barely hold her down. "I'll sue you for defamation. I'll make you go to prison." I looked at her calmly. "Miss Lin, what you should be considering now is how to explain the 300 million in tax evasion to the judge." These words were like cold water poured over her head. She suddenly went quiet, staring at me with sinister eyes. "You think this is over? I still have leverage against you." 3 days later, major media outlets suddenly broke the news of an ex-convict taking revenge on former wife, with images of me looking ferocious. The comments section was in an uproar, with many people concluding that I was too frightening. "This is Lin Jingyun's legal team at work. Jose handed me a file, but we've also found something good." The file showed Lin Jingyun's use of inferior products, passing off low quality as high quality, and other malicious practices. Just as we were preparing to submit this evidence to the relevant authorities, an unexpected phone call came in. It was Lin Jingyun's mother, her voice trembling severely. "Jiao, please spare Jingyun. She slit her wrists in the detention center last night." Jose and I exchanged glances, both seeing the doubt in each other's eyes. "Mom, don't worry." I deliberately used an affectionate term. "I'll go to the hospital right away to see her." After hanging up the phone, Jose immediately contacted his friend at the hospital. As expected, Lin Jingyun had only made several shallow scratches on her wrist with her fingernail, not even requiring stitches. She's still using the same old tricks. I shook my head. But this time, I won't be fooled again. The next day, I brought all the evidence to the prosecutor's office. The prosecutor who received me looked extremely serious after reviewing the materials. "Mr. Su, this evidence is crucial. We will launch a comprehensive investigation into Lin Pharmaceutical." When I walked out of the prosecutor's office, the sunlight was just right. Jose was leaning against the car waiting for me. "How did it go?" "The case has been filed." I let out a long breath. "But this is just the beginning." Jose nodded and handed me a new document. Guess what else I found? Lin Jingyun and Lu Huaishua's underground affair actually started in college. That chief surgeon you beat up back then actually discovered their improper relationship and was trying to blackmail her to take advantage of her. I opened the file, which contained the romantic history of Lu Huaishua and Lin Jingyun from their university days. While I, her boyfriend, was working multiple jobs to pay for her college education, she was having an intimate relationship with Lu Huaishua at school. On the day of the press conference, the venue was packed with media from all directions. Standing on the stage, looking at the flashing camera lights below, the grievance I had carried for 10 years would finally be cleared today. "Ladies and gentlemen of the media, thank you for coming today." My voice sounded exceptionally clear through the microphone. "I am Su Jiao, the perpetrator of that drunk driving fatality case from 10 years ago." The venue immediately became restless, with reporters raising their cameras. I clicked the remote control, and the surveillance footage of the accident from that year appeared on the large screen. The truth is, the perpetrator was my wife Lin Jingyun. The image froze on her panicked face. At that time, she begged me in tears to take the blame, promising to wait for me. And I, like a fool, believed her. I displayed Lin Jingyun's bank statements from the past 10 years. She supported my parents? No, the monthly 500 yuan allowance was deducted from my dividends. Next was evidence of her tampering with medical records at the hospital. As a healthcare professional, she was willing to gamble with patients' lives to cover up medical malpractice. Finally, the true accounts of Lin's enterprise. Over these years, Lin Pharmaceutical has evaded taxes amounting to 320 million yuan through falsified accounting. Reporters frantically took notes, camera shutters clicking continuously. I took a deep breath and announced my final decision. Today, I officially announce my divorce from Lin Jingyun and demand that she bear all legal responsibilities. Immediately after the press conference, the police launched a comprehensive investigation into Lin's enterprise. In less than a week, this once glorious pharmaceutical empire had fallen into a precarious situation. Lin Pharmaceuticals suspected of tax evasion. Accounts have been frozen. Multiple executives taken away for investigation. Business partners terminating contracts one after another. I watched the news on television with complete indifference. Jose pushed open the door, holding a stack of documents. Latest news, the tax bureau has sealed off Lin's headquarters building. What about Lu Huaishua? I asked. That spineless coward. Jose sneered. To save himself, he sold out Lin Jingyun completely. Unfortunately, the police found records of destroyed evidence on his computer, and now he's being charged with obstruction of justice. Just as we were talking, my phone rang. It was my father calling, his voice carrying unprecedented fawning. Jiao, why don't you come home for dinner tonight? Your mother has made your favorite braised fish. No need. I calmly hung up the phone. In these 10 days, the transformation of both sets of parents has been nothing short of dramatic. My in-laws, who once spoke harshly to me, now wait daily at the entrance of my temporary residence begging for mercy, while my biological parents continuously send messages repenting that we shouldn't have pressured you back then. Most ridiculous is my younger brother Su Jiaming, who actually brought a fruit basket to apologize. Brother, I was wrong. It was all that bitch Lin Jingyun who deceived me. Looking at this brother who once beat me with his fists and feet, I only felt completely estranged. Last year when you caused an accident driving drunk, it was Lin Jingyun who helped you fix it. Now that she's fallen, who do you think will be next? His face instantly turned deathly pale, and the fruit basket fell to the ground with a thud. 1 month later, the court began to hear my divorce case. Lin Jingyun was brought to the defendant's seat in shackles, her once exquisite face now haggard. When she saw me, hatred erupted in her eyes. Defendant Lin Jingyun, suspected of hit and run, perjury, tax evasion, commercial fraud. The judge's voice echoed in the courtroom. The trial lasted for 3 full days. Finally, the judge announced the verdict in court. Divorce granted, marital property to be divided according to investment proportions. 30% of Lin family shares under Lin Jingyun's name will belong to Su Jiao. When walking out of the courtroom, fine rain was falling from the sky. Lin Jingyu's mother suddenly rushed over and knelt before me. Jiao, please withdraw the lawsuit. If Jingyu goes to prison, what will happen to the 2 children? I looked down at this once arrogant Woma. Rainwater flowing down her cheeks, impossible to distinguish from tears. Auntie, I said softly. Those 2 children aren't mine. What do they have to do with me? Her expression instantly froze. Her lips trembled, but she couldn't speak a word. This reaction already told me the answer. Finally, Lin Jingyun was sentenced to 12 years in prison for multiple charges. Lu Huaishua received a 3-year sentence. Lin Pharmaceutical declared bankruptcy, and I reclaimed my portion of the assets through legal proceedings. On the day I left the city, Zhou Zilai came to see me off. Are you really leaving? He handed me a file folder. Inside is the patent for Lin Pharmaceuticals' newly developed cancer drug, which should rightfully be yours. I shook my head. None of that matters anymore. Looking at the scenery rushing past outside the window, I said softly, 10 years in prison, 10 years of deception. Now, I just want to live for myself once. The train slowly started moving, carrying me toward an unfamiliar destination. I knew that the shadows of the past might never be completely erased, but at least I could finally stand tall and embrace my own life. In the new city, I used that money to open a small bookstore. Every day, I arranged bookshelves and recommended books to customers, living a simple but fulfilling life. Occasionally, I would recall those dark years, but more often, I looked forward to tomorrow's sunshine. One weekend afternoon, I was organizing newly arrived books when the doorbell suddenly rang. Welcome. I looked up and saw a familiar figure standing at the door. Jose smiled and held up a bottle of wine. What? Not going to offer an old friend a drink? Outside the window, The sunset was perfect. We sat in the corner of the bookstore, our glasses making